frickin' ye! Here, frickin' ye! Avengers assemble! I, the mayor of Lumberjillville, have a very special announcement to all the residents.
What's going on?
Ah yes, my liege, Comair Alexa. I am here to share some very important news. I have been elected king of Lumberjillville.
Elected king? I don't think that's how that works anyways. How was this decided?
There was a unanimous vote by the Knights of the Round Table that appointed me king.
I think you got your history mixed up. But either way, the throne shall be mine.
Hey, no need for that. I told you you've been watching way too much of that Game of Thrones show. Way too much. Anyway, I have a special surprise for you. There's no need for this. How would you like to be the queen of Lumberjillville? My liege.
I couldn't. There is only one person I consider queen here, and that's Charlotte Flair. Today's figure review.
Aha! But as the queen, you get this crown. And you also get as many drumsticks as you can possibly eat.
You know what? It.
Queen Alexa, we are going to rule this kingdom and give these women's wrestling figures the love, credit, and attention that they truly deserve.
Can we bring in drunk Albert Del Rio figure to be our jester?
In due time, my queen, in due time. But for now, let's get on with the Ultimate Edition Charlotte review. Hey y'all, welcome to Lumberjillville. Women's wrestling lives here. Today, we're going to be reviewing the Ringside Collectibles exclusive Ultimate Edition Charlotte Flair. Now, I'll be honest, and we're going to take a very close, detailed look at this, but just from images online, I was a little let down and a little ticked off that this is all we got for the Ultimate figure. But once I got it in the mail, this thing looks freaking cool, so let's dive in and cover the good and the little bad that exists here. Alright, so before we get her out of the box, I just wanted to give you a closer look at the box because it's pretty cool. So this is a standard Ultimate Edition box, which is pretty large in itself. Now, on the left side, just has her name, nothing special. On the right, it's got a photo. And on the back, what I love about this is if you look close, let me angle the camera here, they have like figure photography of her doing a moonsault. So that's awesome. I mean, that just popped me huge when I saw that. So turning it around, this is one of the minor problems that I saw with this figure. Is this, to me, looks like an Ultimate as far as accessory inclusions. I mean, we'll get a closer look and I'll be able to judge it off of that a lot better. But having 2 extra sets of hands, an extra head, and a robe, that's all you get for an Ultimate, which is kind of crazy. Considering that the Ronda Rousey Ultimate and the Becky Lynch Ultimate, you were able to completely basically change their attires to have their entrance gear and the ring gear. And I understand with Charlotte, you probably didn't have to do that. However, they needed to include the SmackDown Women's Championship. I don't get why that is such a treasure for Mattel. I mean, I have all these women's figures, and I have one SmackDown Women's Championship somehow. So I think if they included that, I would have been A-okay with it, but that was my minor gripe with this, is especially for the price point, and I'll cover that later, but you don't really get a whole lot. But that being said, I'm going to open this up very carefully, and I say very carefully because my daughter fell in love with this figure just from images, so she took claim to it, and I'm going to let her open it up. But for today's review purposes, I'm going to carefully take it out and put it back in. So this attire is based on her SummerSlam 2018 match where she defeated Carmella and Becky Lynch in a triple threat match to become the SmackDown Women's Champion, which is why I really wish they would have included that SmackDown Women's Championship. But like I said, they are so hard to come by for some reason. But anyway, we're going to take a closer look at everything, including that robe, because I'll be honest with you, it's pretty cool. It's pretty stunning. Now, when I saw images of this robe online, it looked super cheap and almost see-through. But I can tell you, holding it in hand, it really doesn't feel as cheap as it looked in those images. I mean, I got Triple H that came with that China 2-pack, and that robe was like lingerie thin, and this one isn't as bad, to be honest with you. But looking closely, it's a little hard with the light, but the detail of the silver, where it has flare on the back, looks great. Also, the design patterns all over this robe are awesome. There's like a little crown type design, a bunch of dots throughout, and then there's these little peacocks on there. And on the bottom, there's a little design. And what I like about this robe is all the extra fabric. Like, I love that Taya Valkyrie robe, just because it was so big. I mean, it looked awesome. Like, I'm actually regretting this, that I'm letting my daughter have this one. I mean, not really, because I love her and she's the reason why I do this, but I might have to get one to display. The only downfall with the robe being thin is I took it out of the box very carefully, and it's still kind of folded up in weird ways, so I don't know if it'll lay a little smoother, if it's just going to take some fixing, but like I said, this will go to my daughter, so it's not a big deal. Now, the biggest inclusion on this robe is this awesome fur hood. I mean, it sits up perfectly, looks awesome. You can't get better than that, honestly. Now, we'll do a robe comparison with her Elite Series 54 once I take this off. But I really wanted to cover the accessories she comes with besides this robe, so let's get with that. Besides that awesome robe, she has a couple other accessories, including 2 pairs of hands. Now, the pair of hands that she comes in the box with are the semi-open ones meant for grasping or holding. She also comes with an open pair, which mine has a bent finger, so shucks. And then these are the hands that you're going to want to display her with if you're going to put her in her robe. I mean, these are awesome. I'm so happy that they didn't come all bent, but like I said, I'll probably order another for me since this is for my daughter. Now, taking a closer look at the heads. So this is a smiley Charlotte, which looks great, looks just like her. And the hair sculpt is awesome. I mean, it's beautiful, honestly. Now, what I love is the head that comes on the body. I mean, this right here is perfection, folks. I mean, the cocky little smirk that they gave her, this is perfect. This is the head that, I mean, I would want to display. I don't know a time where I'd really want to display the smiling head. It's almost like they included it just to include it. But I really do like this heel sculpt. I mean, this looks perfect, honestly. Now, that being said, let's take a closer look at her ring attire underneath. So we're going to remove this robe, and y'all will see how easy this is, or hard. Comes off good, and I can already tell this is going to be awesome. So let's start with the top. This attire freaking rules. I mean, the paint application is killer. I love it. All right, so looking at this top, the biggest feature I see that I love is the molding, okay? So she has a very unique style wardrobe, or ring gear, I should say. And it's molded. It's not just painted. And I love when they include molding in these women's figures. And you move it around to the back. And yep, the straps are molded on along with the little back strap going across. Now what really makes this top stand out is the intricate paint detail. Look at that. I mean, that's incredible, honestly. And as you can also tell, is they had the inclusion of her tattoos. And they're fairly easy to read. It might be a little hard on camera, but they look great. Moving on to her lower extremity, there is no molding in her little bottoms here. It's all painted on, which is a little disappointing, but I mean, come on, it's not a huge deal because they are pretty tight when she wrestles, so it works. Now again, the paint application is freaking stunning. I mean, look at that. And turning it around, same thing. Now, what I love about these knee pads is the two-tone. Remember, I'm colorblind, but it looks like a pink down into like a orangish red. I love that. I mean, these are like the coolest knee pads I've ever seen. And then moving down to her boots. They're the red boots with the CF on the side. Just like her dad with the RF on the side, you know, she's got a CF. And they're exactly what she wore that night. Now, the one thing I'm going to say that drives me crazy, okay, is this extra ultimate articulation. Look how loose this is. I mean, I'm glad I'm giving this one to my daughter because it just doesn't stand. I mean, what is the point of this little joint? Just to say there's extra articulation? Drives me nuts. I can't stand it. But anyway, yeah, that's her attire. Alright, so now we're going to do a comparison. On the right, we have the Ultimate Edition, and on the left, we have Elite Series 54, which, by the way, is her only Elite figure released by Mattel. And that to me just isn't right, honestly. I'm going to do a whole nother video on that down the road, but that should be a crime. I mean, she has been a staple in the WWE, especially in the women's division, and really accelerated that division. And on top of that, to me, she is one of, if not the top athlete in the WWE, and she has one Elite. And she's been there for years. So, anyway, that being said, we're going to compare them. Now, starting off with the face, I'm going to impose some close-ups here in the bottom of the screen so you can compare for yourself. And I used to be very happy with that Elite Series 54 face. I thought, man, that looks like Charlotte. That's awesome. And then I got the Ultimate, and that face is perfect. I mean, honestly, it does. It looks just like her. So now I look at the Elite 54 and I don't really see Charlotte's face in it, if that makes sense. But you judge for yourself. Now, looking at the robes, that was another thing that just looking at the images of the Ultimate, I was like, man, that cheap fabric, it looks real thin. It doesn't look like a whole lot of qualities into it, but I was wrong, and I'll tell you why. So looking at her Elite 54, it's a very thick material. It's almost like it is two layers, a blue layer and a white layer sewn together, so it's very thick. And that quality is very nice. However, the Ultimate's is very thin. And this to me works better, and I'll tell you why. You know, when I pulled it out of the box, it was kind of bent all different directions, but you're able to shape it and move it and make it fit to her and conform to her in her poses a lot better than this. I mean, you look at her Elite and it's kind of just too thick and all over the place. So far all the points go to the Ultimate, but let's take a look without the robes. So once we take those robes off, if we compare them both, they both rule. I mean, to be honest with you, they do. However, again, because that Ultimate face is so perfect, that Elite 54 face just doesn't seem right to me. It seems a little off. And on top of that, I don't know if you can really tell, but the head is a lot larger on that Elite compared to the Ultimate, and it seems out of scale. So, once again, the Ultimate seems to win in every category. The only thing that I really don't like is this foot. I mean, again, that articulation to me is so pointless and stupid, to be honest with you. And this really affects her being able to stand, so that kind of stinks. But they do both have their strengths, so I'm going to go with the Ultimate as the better figure. So before we move on to availability, I wanted to give you one more look of her out of her robe. And one more look of her in her robe. As far as availability goes, Ultimate Edition Charlotte Flair is a Ringside Collectibles exclusive, so that is the only way to get her. Now, where this situation gets a little hairy, it is listed at $39.99, so a $40 figure. That's a pretty steep price tag for the lack of accessories we get. I mean, this figure freaking rules, and don't get me wrong. The robe, to my surprise, I love it. I think it's great, honestly. And I was the biggest naysayer going into it because the images made it look cheap and not accurate, but we already covered that, and I was pleasantly impressed, honestly. It works. However, this is an Ultimate figure. Don't you think we should have got a little more for that price tag? Especially $40? At least a SmackDown Women's title. So, here's what I have to say about this. If you are an adult collector and you want the end-all be-all Charlotte Flair figure, then spend the $40 and get it, because it rules. And if you're a collector of the women's division, this is a must-buy in my opinion, because this is awesome. I mean, it's great. The price sucks. I mean, I'll be honest, it's steep. But in my opinion, Charlotte is such a key factor in that women's division and the WWE. And if you want to get a Charlotte figure, then yeah, spend the money and get this one, honestly. Alright, so as far as scoring this thing, it's going to get a little tricky, and here's why. So anyone that watches my reviews know that my basics have their own scale, my elites have their own scale, and she's an Ultimate, so she should be graded as an Ultimate. And before I give a score, I'm going to say that this figure freaking rules, and it is the best Charlotte Flair figure we have ever gotten, by far. And it exceeded my expectations. I was kind of a naysayer when I was first seeing images because I was thinking that the quality just wasn't there for some reason. But once I got it in the mail and I opened it, this thing rocks, honestly. So anyway, all that being said, and knowing it is an Ultimate and we have a lack of accessories, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. It would honestly be near a perfect score if it did have ultimate level accessories, but it doesn't. But either way, a 9 out of 10 is pretty freaking good. Thanks for stopping by Lumberjillville. Women's wrestling lives here. Make sure to hit like, subscribe, and join the community. I have plenty of future women's wrestling figure reviews coming up, as well as some more episodes of Total Matellas. Have a good night, y'all.